there, right? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very glad to be here. I've been traveling in Brazil for a week now, and it was a great experience. It's my first time here, so thanks guys a lot. Yeah, I will talk about Appium, and Appium is a framework that lets you automate mobile apps. I will talk in detail in a bit, but yeah, I'm Bernard, I'm a web developer, I work for SOS Labs, I work remotely, I work from Poland, but the company is based in San Francisco in US. And Appium is one of the projects that we started, but we made it in completely open source manner. It's on GitHub, it's free, everyone can use it, everyone can contribute. And why Appium? What does this name actually mean? Have any one of you heard about Selenium? Yeah, cool. Yeah, quite a few people. So yeah, Appium is basically Selenium for apps. But why do we need Selenium for apps? Yeah, we already heard that today. Mobile is not taking over the world. Mobile has taken over the world, especially in evolving countries. Not everyone has a full-blown computer, but people usually have a mobile device. And yeah, mobile applications are getting more complex, so we need to care about the quality of apps, especially that our users are not the same computer geeks as we are. They might not tolerate application failing over and over, and especially if you create a paid app, your user wants your app to be solid. So yeah, what you need to make your app solid, you need to test it. And testing and QA are important but painful. They are usually very boring, especially for developers, because developers like to create things and do not spend time on boring things. And you know, when you add a feature, when you change something in the code, it's a bit boring to run through all over the app to check if all the functionality is still working. And yeah, developers want to write code, not just click all over the app all the time. As I said, mobile is big, applications are getting more and more complex, and as the application gets more complex, it is more risky to do changes to the existing code. And yeah, you probably know about butterfly effect, so it's something like that. Even a small change can ruin a whole functionality or even the whole user experience of your app. I don't know if you've heard about Obamacare project, the big project in the US. So it was a government project, and it was broken, and everyone was fixing it. And the funny thing is that they were so involved in fixing it that nobody tested the login scenario, and it turned out that the login was not working. You couldn't click the login button. So there were no users able to spot the new bugs because they were not even able to register and log in into the application. So yeah, if you don't want to do it in a boring way, you should do automated testing. It's basically a solution for a fast development cycle that lets you maintain a high quality of your application. So yeah, do it in an automated way. Don't waste your time on boring stuff. Let your computer do the boring stuff. And yeah, like the holy grail of automated testing is, of course, continuous integration. If you've got continuous integration in place, you've got really fast feedback of your changes in the code, so you know if you caused any regressions, if you've got a good test coverage for your application. And if you're already there, you do continuous integration, you probably want to go even further. And of course, probably all of you know that automated deployment is another cool thing that you can do. So because if you do your testing real well, you can be almost sure that your application is still working. This is something that we call development cycle of optimal happiness, because it makes various parties happy. It makes developers happy because it lets you be less stressed and less nervous, because you can focus on producing high quality code, not testing and breaking your app. It makes managers happy because you deliver the code, you deliver the features, you do not cause many bugs, and you make the customers or users really happy because your application is solid. How does this cycle work? First, you form a hypothesis. So you want to add a new feature to your application. Then you write some code, and then all of us do that. We test locally. We test if our code works in the way we want it to work. And if there's a bug, we see it, we fix it. And then we push the code. And this is how some of the shops do it, and they do not have a CI, that they just push the time forward, and they want to deliver the app and forget about it. But if you're working on your own product, you probably care more. Then CI usually comes in place. So when you push the code, the whole test suite runs, and if it runs successfully, you might be pretty sure, if your test coverage is good, that your changes did not introduce any bugs. But if you did introduce some bugs, then after a few minutes, you get the answer. You broke the build, you know that something is wrong, and then you can investigate and fix it. So that's how the cycle might look like. Then if you're really sure that it's okay, you can do CI deploys. You can do also post-deploy tests. So this is like an additional layer of tests which are run on the live application that is deployed, because your CI environment might be a bit different than the production, and you want to make sure that the deploy process went fine. So you also test on a deployed application. And then, of course, you can evaluate and work on the code again, add new features. Let's go back to Appium. What is that Appium thinks? It's an automation for apps. It's basically a cross-platform solution for native and hybrid and web mobile automation. I will tell you in detail what does it mean. It basically makes testing possible for mobile devices, because before Appium it was not easy to automate especially native apps or hybrid apps. And Appium is our solution to making CI possible for mobile devices, because without automated testing is really, really hard to make quality applications. But is it proven? Why should I use it? Someone is telling me about it, but is it popular? So this is Appium, and the biggest competitor. As I said, Appium is open source, so we can kind of compare the metrics. Of course, there are big names that are using it, I wanted to show the community aspect of it. We're working completely open source on it. We've got collaborators from all over the world, and it's looking pretty well. But again, as I said, there are some competitors. So why Appium? Why not some other solution like Kobos or something? Why we actually started thinking about creating something like that? There were competitors. There were frameworks for iOS and Android, but each one of them was lacking something, and I will tell you what were the rules when we were thinking about creating such project. Let's go to the next one. What differs us from the other projects is our philosophy. First of all, we want the app that you test to be the same app that you put into the marketplace. So we don't want you to put SDKs into the app, add some libraries, and run tests on a changed app. We want it to be the same application. And we wanted our framework to be language agnostic. We don't want you to be forced to write your tests in Java or Ruby or whatever. We want you to choose your favorite language, because each one of us has usually a favorite language that feels better or is better for the project to have everything in one language. Also, we wanted to use some standard for the automation and the API. So we don't want it to reinvent the wheel again, because we see that's the scene for many projects. They are creating new APIs and you have to learn it, so learning curve is more steep and your knowledge might be not reusable in the future, so we don't want that to happen. Also, we wanted to build, this was a wish. We wanted to build an open source community around it. That's why we, from almost day one, we started working on it on GitHub. Everything was open. There's a discussion group. There's an IRC channel. So we were helping other people, collaborating, and working on it open. How does the platform support currently look? We support iOS, Android, and Firefox OS. Of course, it would be awesome to add new platforms. It works on real devices, so you can plug your Android or iOS device via USB cable and run tests on it. You can work on simulators. You can test your hybrid apps or mobile apps, and I will show you how to play Appium with robots. So let's go to the first demo. It's basically running an Appium test. So first I'm running a Node server. Node server which actually is Appium. Appium is written in Node, so it's completely JavaScript. And it's not working now, the demo. Okay, it's working. So here it's a showcase of a Woven app. It has two versions. It has an Android version and iOS version. And here the first test run is on Android. The iPhone is in the background, so it looks a bit funky. It's an app that lets you access your your photo sharing accounts, and it basically goes through the app, makes all the gestures that you would normally do, like swipes, touches, pinches, whatever. It's all supported in Appium. So Appium is run, you've got the console output here, and then in the top window you see that you probably don't see, but it's a Mocha test suite running there. And now it has switched to the iPhone version and is doing the same thing. So this is Appium. It lets you run the same test suite on both devices, Android and iOS. It was never possible before with any of the frameworks. So this is completely independent from the platform. You can write the same code, and if the UI elements are similar, like this app is built in a way that lets you navigate the same UI elements, like they have the same names, then you can just run the same tests on both devices on two apps, so you don't have to rewrite it. So that's it. That's Appium. That's one of the reasons why it was created. And how is it done? Yeah, as I said, Appium is written in JavaScript. It's running on Node. It's basically an HTTP server that handles WebDriver sessions. Those of you who know Selenium probably know what WebDriver is. So basically, WebDriver is a protocol and a standard API that tells you how automation is done. And it has been standard for years for browser automation. I will show you the API in a bit. And yeah, Selenium is a de facto standard. It's an HTTP API, so it lets you create sessions, get elements from the app or from the browser. You can get attributes of the elements. So, for example, you may want to tell it, I want a button with name login. I want to see the text of that button. I want to see if that button is disabled and stuff like that. I want to click on that button. So this is what the WebDriver protocol was created for. And the best thing about WebDriver is that it has the clients in virtually every language. And even if there's no client for some funky language, you can create the one because it's an HTTP API, so it's super simple. And yeah, as I said, it's a de facto standard. It's still a W3C working draft, but already, if it's a draft, you can see how serious people are about it. And yeah, people all over the world are using Selenium, and that's why we wanted to use it also for Appium. And yeah, Appium is currently working closely with Selenium project to extend the protocol, because currently for some of the mobile specific things, so we need to hack a bit the API by using execute script, for example, to switch contexts from browser to native and things like that. So we're working with Selenium projects, and there's something called WebDriver 2.0 or Appium 1.0, which is a change to the WebDriver API, which will define how mobile automation should be done in that protocol. And like, how is it done behind the scenes? Well, for iOS, we use Apple Instruments and UI automation. For Google, they've got a similar thing, which is called UI Automator. UI Automator is only for devices that are Android 4.2.1 and up, and for all their devices, unfortunately, you need to use Android. And for Firefox OS, our lead ecosystem engineer implemented support for Firefox OS in one evening, being on a conference with people from Mozilla and using Marionette, because Marionette has parts of Selenium in it. This is how it works for iOS. So basically, you've got your test. It might be a simple JavaScript program that just talks to Appium. I will show code a bit, so it will become more clear. But basically, you connect to Appium, and Appium is proxying via the instruments your commands to the real device. And for Android, it's pretty similar, but instead of Bootstrap.js on the device, you've got Bootstrap jar, which creates a little server that is listening for the commands, and commands come from the script. The code. So normally I would use that code because I'm a Python guy, but not everyone might like Python, and this is a JavaScript conference, and you guys want to go crazy. And Tim already mentioned generators, so let's do it in this way. We created something called UD, which is a wrapper around WD.js library, which is WebDriver JavaScript library, and it is using something called monocle.js. And also Monocle is a JavaScript port of the Python library, which is called Monocle, which lets you write async code using generators. And yeah, why we did that? Like in a sec, you will see the code, but we wanted to make async easy. Especially in tests, async is problematic because you want actions to be run in a sequence. So you need to, write callback after callback after callback, and in Selenium tests, it's really easy to create a pyramid of doom. So instead of that, you can use yield, and as you see, you are using the yield keyword. It's EI6, so it's I think it's from node 11. You can use it with -- harmony flag. But yeah, it's already working. It's also on GitHub. Just use the generators. And yeah, this is the exactly same test code as this one. So you see how much shorter it is and how much easier it is to scan it and to understand it. So yeah, what this actually means. Tim already said that, but I will tell that again. Yield here is basically telling your code to wait for that action to finish. So instead of running a function with a callback and waiting that callback, you use yields all over. We use Monocle in production for our cloud. We do not use Monocle.js in production yet because it's still kind of experimental, but maybe this is how it will be done in future. It definitely helped us with Python. But yeah, let's go back to Appium. Yeah, you can start Appium sessions pretty easily. You just point it to your application, you tell it what device do you want, then you just test all the things you want, and then you finish. And this is how you do it using Qt. You tell it to connect to localhost on a default Appium port, and basically that's it. You can find elements in your app. So, for example, you can say that I want element with the text login. Well, sorry, not the text on it, but with accessibility label on it. So if you've got accessibility label defined in your application, you've got that both in Android and iOS. Then you can get your element. You can also get elements by type. You can get the whole array of elements and loop on them. You've got something like a hierarchy. So you've got kind of like XPath selector. You want a button with a certain name. Or you can use Android IDs in Android. You can also interact with elements, get text from them, click them, put text in them, get them, or for example, for slider, you can set a value of the slider. Yeah, and what if you've got a big application? Well, you can use Selenium, you can use Sauce Labs, we've got a big cloud of machines waiting for you. Or if you want to build an in-house solution, you can use Selenium Grid because it's completely compatible with Selenium Grid, which is open source, so you can do this way. And if you've got an open source project, Sauce Labs is completely free for open source, so just register and use it for free. Yeah, and now the fun part, real devices. Here is a contacts app on Android device, which is automated with Appium. Come on. This is weird. Well, okay, skip that one. Let's go with mobile web. Here, the same scenario. Running Appium, then running a test, loading basically a Guinea pig page with Safari and Chrome. Yeah, so it's basically shows that you can also automate Chrome on mobile and Safari on mobile. I don't have much time, so I will just rush through it and show you the fun stuff. Here is a robot, and Appium is used to get the coordinate of the keys. Oh yeah. It gets coordinates of the keys on the screen for the keyboard and tells the robot to tap them. So yeah, this is how testing might be done in the future, because you do not have all the stuff that you want on simulators or real devices, for example. It's hard to emulate orientation of the device, so you might do that with robots. Another fun thing is, again, it's another version of that robot, but it's playing Angry Birds. Appium is not really used here, but if it would be an application with native elements, native UI elements, it might be completely operated with Appium. Another fun thing about that robot, it's completely open sourced. It also has its own GitHub repo, and it is 3D printed, so if you've got 3D printer, everything is there. Yeah, if you want to join Appium, let us know.